mentioned Mike in the 90s, and I want to talk about a few things again with the training. But before we do, the listeners are like, come on, get into the training. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. How did you meet Mike? I know it's been said before, but for the listeners who may have not known, what was your first interaction with him? What made you want to reach out to him? And what year was it when you met him?
What made me eventually want to reach out to him was that he was my very initial exposure to bodybuilding as far as training goes. Okay. I had read an old issue of Muscle Builder magazine with Frank and Christine Zane on the cover in 1980. In 1979, Mr. Olympia had just happened. Mike Mentzer took second place. And that magazine contained articles from all of the champions of the day. And Mike was the one that made sense to me. And I hadn't even started training yet. I was just researching. I'm that way first. I want to know what I'm doing first before I go and do it. And his approach was the one that made sense to me. So I got a hold of his training brochures that he had in the magazines at the time. And I was just a teenager, and I sent cash in an envelope to him in California. And he actually sent me the brochures. So believe it, coins and everything in those envelopes, in that envelope, by the way. And so I just followed those routines. But as time would go on, I was in California. I moved from New York to California when I was about 21. And at that time, I would go and work out at Gold's Gym in Venice and World Gym in Santa Monica at the time. And going to Gold's Gym in Venice, the front parking lot, which is still the front parking lot to this day, that parking lot, I would park each morning. I would go to work out. And one day I was parked right next to, I think it was a Hornet. That was a type of car way back when, a Hornet or a Pacer. It was some beat up old car. And sleeping in the back was Mike Mentzer. So at that time, he was still going through the phase of coming out of the hospitals. He had, been committed to a mental institution at one point between 1982-ish or three.
That's shortly after the Olympia. That's surprising.
Yeah. Well, he had a problem with amphetamines, I should say, not methamphetamine, but amphetamines was the name he would say. And so it caused psychosis, and he went off his rocker for a while. And it wasn't until 1989 or 1990 that he came out of it. So he was on the streets in 1988, 89, sleeping in cars. And that's where I saw him. He was sleeping in the back of a car. And it was around that 1989 time period. So he had about 6 years or so that he was, not quite all there. And he got it together and he grabbed a hold of himself. He was one of the success stories for getting out of a mental institution. And in the early 90s was when he started his personal training business. So I was already a bodybuilder, competitive bodybuilder in the local shows in Southern California. I did a few small shows and natural shows. And then next thing you know, in one of those muscle magazines that had an article written by him where he was expressing yet again the same training principles that I knew worked. And I was using them somewhat in my training because of Dorian Yates. Dorian was still doing a little bit more than what Mike Mentzer eventually told him to do. And so I was too. I was sort of doing what Dorian Yates did with my training partner. And so we were doing a little bit more than what Mike Mentzer would have us do. But at the end of the article, Mike said in the article, he put his phone number, his actual phone number, and said, get a hold of me if you're interested in training and if you're in the Southern California area. So I called the number and I left a voicemail message. It was an answering machine. And that night I was in my garage working on some equipment, and he called me very late at night, and it was actually him. And we talked for 2 hours, and he talked about everything from training to life to philosophy to his history. He asked me a ton of questions about me, and we actually were already becoming friends at that point because he was very personable with the people that he worked with. That's true. A lot of the men and women who he's worked with over the years, they would probably, I noticed they all say similar, that he would take a lot of time with them, and they did become friends, a lot of them, not just clients. And so that was the case in my case. I became mainly friends with him as opposed to client. So it made me want to reach out to him and train with him. And I was very excited to. And I would go to Gold's Gym and train with him and get the most intense workouts. We would be done in 17 minutes. And some of the guys, they'd be asking me, because they'd see me training with them, they asked a whole bunch of questions. And it was great. I grew from it. I grew yet again from it. So I knew it was the best way, for me, at least. I'm glad when I see people who've been following my channel for like 3 or 4 years and they say, hey, it's because of you, that I went back to high intensity training. It's changed my life. And it's usually a lot of the guys that they just got lost with higher volume training, and they took it to a ridiculous degree, or they got injured and things like that. And then they go back to high intensity training and they find that it's not, high force training, it's high intensity effort training. So there's different names we could give it.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk. Now's the time. Let's talk about the training. Let's talk about what was the training routine system, if you will, that you were engaging in prior to Mike, and then how did it evolve once you started with Mike?
So I had been with my training partner. We were doing a 3 time a week. It was an ABA split, ABA, BAB, like that. One week it was ABA, second week was BAB. And what do I mean by that? Half the body. Okay, so one workout would be, the A workout would be chest, back, and shoulders. The B workout would be legs and arms, like that. And we would just rotate them, A, B, A, week 1, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Following week, B, A, B, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So in the course of 2 weeks, we would do each body part 1, 2, 3 times, and very intense, very brief for the workouts, and fast, moving through them fast. And we were doing 1 or 2 sets. I'll be clear, 1 or 2 sets. So then I had the best training partner of all time for me. His name is Steve Ballinger. He's in Southern California, and he's like a big brother to me. And when we hooked up with training, it was that Dorian Yates routine, that 4-day split that he did as a professional. The first workout, and it was 1 set of everything, and sometimes 2, very rarely 2. But the first workout of the week would be shoulders and triceps, shoulders, traps, and triceps. The second workout, so that'll be on a Monday. Tuesday would be back alone, and we would throw calves with it. So back and calves, and then we'd take a day off. So we'd go Monday, Tuesday, and we'd take a day off, and we would come in on the third workout, which would be on Thursday that week, and we would do, now this is my split, how I did. I know some people on your channel are going to blow up the comment section because they're going to say, that's not how Dorian did it. The way I did it on the third workout, I did legs on that third workout, and that would be on Thursday. And legs were always a strong point for myself and for Steve. So we didn't mind training them that day. And then we would generally train the next day and do chest and biceps. We both needed more chest and biceps. So we would finish the week off with chest and biceps. The workouts were intense. They were just like carbon copy off of what Dorian had been showing on the internet at the time. Single set training, mostly forced reps. Negatives. It was mainly forced reps and negatives at that point. We would do on each other. Big weights, good form. We grew. And that routine we were doing right up until when that fateful day when I called Mike Mentzer. And then I actually had both myself and my training partner, we trained with Mike separately. So both of us went in and trained with him. So we would both drive, into Venice, and separately, but 2 separate appointments because, Mike liked to train people one at a time, and we'd be done in 17 minutes anyway. So that routine that he did on us, so we graduated from that, and concurrent with Dorian, by the way, Dorian went from 2 sets of everything. We went from 1 or 2 to 1 set only at that point. And so did Dorian in 93, and he grew like a beast. And so did we. And so we went to 1 set of everything. But what workout did we do? Different than Dorian. We didn't keep doing the Dorian routine. We did Mike's ideal routine. The ideal routine was one where Mike still listed it as, this is in 1 week now, right? Let's say on Monday you do chest and back, and that would include deadlifts, chest and back. You rest 4 days. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you train legs and abs. Okay. So that's it for the week. That's it. Nothing else. And then you go 4 more days. So you go Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. The following week, week 2, you start the week off with shoulders and arms. And then 4 days off, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday that week. You're doing legs again. So this routine Mike outlined at the time in Heavy Duty 2, Mind and Body. And in that book, he also outlined all the reasons why he did that in that manner. He was trying to avoid overlapping, training the same upper body parts so many times in 1 week to try and maximize the growth of those muscles. And it worked. However, I prefer, like when I taught it for Heavy Duty, for Joanne, and even to this day, when I address it with people, I like to say, and for you, dear listener, please hear me on this one, on Kenny's channel. If you find the ideal routine and you find the details of it in one of Mike's books, and it is in High Intensity Training the Mike Mentzer Way, it's in that book, the ideal routine. If you do find that routine, understand it's better to think of it as upper, lower, The next week, upper, lower. Don't think of it like, oh, I'm only training my chest once every 14 days. That's not the case. And the reason why is because Mike included on the shoulder and arm day, he included close grip bench presses or dips, or in my case, I have people doing pullover presses. So you do use your chest, trained indirectly, but to failure. So if you're stimulating the muscle, yet again, on that week, then you did stimulate the muscle again. You trained chest again in the middle of a chest, shoulder and arm workout, you see. And what about the back? People would say it all the time to me. Oh, even to this day. Oh, I don't do any lat work. Oh, for 2 weeks? Wow, that's crazy. That doesn't work. It's a bunch of crap. Well, here's your nugget on that one, okay? No, it's not crap. Not when you're over here doing your biceps and you do a set of curls and then you immediately follow it up with chin-ups. You jump on a chin-up bar. So you do pre-exhaust. You pre-fatigue your bicep, and then you immediately, no rest, under 3 seconds, do your curls underneath the chinning bar. And then you reach up, grab the bar, and go. But what's the problem? Now, some of you guys are going, what? What did he say? Where did he do that? Well, I'm pointing out to you, just because you have high-intensity training the Mike Mentzer way, that one book, it does not have that part of the workout in there as far as doing those chin-ups on that bicep workout. At that point, ready for this? You said it was John Little's book. Let me correct you. It wasn't John Little's book. His name is on the bottom of the front cover of the book, okay? That book, the manuscript, was written by Mike. It was almost completed when he died, okay? So McGraw-Hill, or whatever the company is, they had a contract. He didn't finish it. Both John Little and Joanne finished the book. So I don't know what happened with them, why they did that. I tried to talk to Joanne several times about this because I did a video on this called The Flaw in Mike Mentzer's Routine. So if you go back on my channel and find that video, you'll see all the details of what I show. One of the major problems with high intensity training the Mike Mentzer way is that he has a pre-exhaust workout of the leg extension to the leg press or leg extension to the squat immediately with no rest, 12 to 20 reps each. It's quite literally impossible to give an all-out effort on a leg extension and hit rep number 20 and then immediately go to a squat or a leg press with an appreciable amount of weight on it and give 20 more reps. You're not going to do it. 20 reps to absolute failure. I can tell you the weight's too light. That's all. So if anything, I found out, and I shared with Joanne at the time, that through my empirical evidence of training clients, you needed about half as many reps when you went to the compound movement, the leg press or the squat. If you did 12 reps on the leg extension, you need 6 on the squat. If you did 20 on the leg extension, you need 10 on the leg press. That was one thing that, again, if I wrote the book with them, I would have been like, yeah, you need to correct that. So that's not what was in the original Heavy Duty 2 Mind and Body, nor was it what we were doing in the gym. Even Mike, right across the gym from me, training his clients, and me on the other end of the gym, we were both doing those workouts on people at the same time. And we were not doing 20 reps supersetted with another 20 reps. It's ridiculous. It's a cardiovascular failure. It's not momentary muscular failure. So the bottom line became that, and then the curl situation to answer the upper body question of, well, when do I do my lats in that 1 week of shoulders and arms? Well, if you feel that you really need to do them, I'd still do it. Supersetting the curl with chin-ups, back to back, no rest, include the chin-ups. And that way you are indirectly training your lats to failure as well. So upper body, lower body, upper body, lower body.